Hi, I'm Gary and welcome to my shop. In this video I'm going to show you how I refurbished a dovetail jig that I picked up at a garage sale. You may find tools at garage sales, flea markets, and other online markets such as Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. If you know what to look for, you can find some gold in those trash piles. Not just jewelry, but good valuable tools and a little cleanup and tune-up can turn these into great tools for a fraction of the cost new. Now, as in this image of the upper part, you can see that it was quite dirty, rusty, but it cleaned up and works well. Now, the disclaimer is that this is not an official or paid review nor an endorsement of the product. This particular one is available at Harbor Freight and other outlets. Now stick around to the end for some extras and information that you will want to see. Be sure to read the description below as it contains additional information, links, updates, and corrections. So check back often. Now I have to disclose that some of the links, such as Amazon, are associate links, and I get paid a small spiff on that. That helps to support the cost of producing these videos and product giveaways that we do on occasion. I do provide a timeline on my videos so you can jump to a part that you may be most interested in. See the progress bar at the bottom of this video? If you hover your pointer over it, you will see the sections and titles, and you can just click or tap to go there. Now please remember to hit that thumbs up icon and give me a like, and subscribe and hit that bell icon so you won't miss anything. So let's get to this one now. Okay, so here I have taken this jig apart so I can get it all cleaned up and get the rust cleaned up and so forth. Get it ready to perform as it should, like it was new. So what you want to do is when you take this apart, or before you take it apart, make sure you've got a good parts illustration, like it's in this owner's manual, although the parts illustration, and I'll put up an image of it here, parts illustration and in this one is not that great. It's not that great a detail for you to figure things out easily. So what I did was I took my smartphone. I took a lot of pictures of this before I took it apart so I could see what it's supposed to look like when it's back together again. And it's really pretty simple. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of parts to this, but you can lose track if you don't keep track. Such as, you know, some of these knobs have longer threads than the other ones do, and that can get confusing if you don't know where they go back to. So what I did is I cleaned up a lot of these blue parts and so forth here with a glass cleaner and a paper towel. And then for some of the metal parts I took and used WD-40 and a wire brush. This one's a brass wire brush. And that got it all cleaned up pretty well and got the rust pretty well resolved, and it shouldn't be much of an issue. So now what I'll do is I'll get this put back together, and then we'll check it out and see how it works. Okay, I'm going to assemble this base part here, or as they call it, the bracket bench. And it's got a shape to it and everything else so it can fit on a table and give you stability while you do the dovetails. And I'll show you more about that later. Right now I'm going to assemble this back together again. And what we do is you got these two pieces here, these guides, and also these guides on this end too, are all the vertical and horizontal pieces. And it keeps them in place and position for getting your dovetails done correctly. Sometimes it may take a little bit of tweaking and testing on some test pieces to make sure you get these zeroed in correctly. Basically, we've got a 1/2 inch dovetail comb here, so we'll be setting up for a 1/2 inch, which means these are set at the outermost extreme, and then these on the inside here need to be a 1/2 inch in from this edge to this edge on this. So you can measure that up, make sure these are straight by using a square, make sure it's straight and it's lined up correctly. Then measure in a 1/2 inch from this. Make sure you get your square on here, or your ruler on here straight. So you measure in that 1/2 inch. Then you can use that to line your square here, and then make a further line there to mark that. Then what you want to do is to take a straight edge, put it up against this other one down here, and get it lined up so it's lined up with the edge of this straight edge, and this is all lined up straight and square. And you do that with both ends, so you make sure you're good and square. As far as these top pieces extruding above the top here a little bit, that's not important because these boards are going to be fitting in between those, and it's not going to interfere with the routing. Okay, so the rest of it is getting this reassembled here, and basically we'll take this cam here that applies the pressure on there, and it slips into these ends like that. Then these bolts will go through those, line up through those holes. Then the springs go on these sides. Then on this piece here, we've got some threaded holes that these bolts are going to fit into. So they'll screw into that. Get those going in. Now we want to make sure we got this cam going the right way, so that the thick end is at the top here, and then we can stick our handle in and screw that in. So when we rotate this, the cam's going to rotate down and press against this to give it pressure to hold the board in place on this base part. And we want the knobs to be able to go downward, and also when we put it on the top, this handle is going to go backwards, so it doesn't interfere with how our router works on this. So basically this is the base part, or as they call it, the bracket bench. So now I'll go on, set this aside, and I'll go on to putting together the upper side that holds the comb for doing the dovetails. In this image, I disassembled the parts and arranged them in an order to assemble, starting at the bottom and working to the top. I placed labels on or nearby the parts to identify them as I talk about them. And I have 3 images to show. 1 is an overall view, 2 is a close-up of the top portion, 3 is a close-up of the bottom portion. And I will put PDF files of these images on my website, and I'll list the links to those in the description below. Now be careful to disassemble and reassemble the parts, as they must go together in a correct order, which will be shown in my next video segment. So I have disassembled this upper part of this jig and got it all cleaned up and so forth. And I made some images earlier of this, and you saw the images roll before this part comes on. And also I'll put PDF copies of those images in a link in the description below. Then you can go and print those out from your computer or reference them from your phone as you go through the steps of assembling this. Because as I do this, I'll be taking these labels off and setting them aside. So to start out, first thing we're going to do is to take this comb table and set it onto these connecting rods here. And take these off as I do this. Then we're going to use these 4 screws here to screw this comb table onto these connecting rods. I'm just going to get them in there, get them started. Snug them on there. You don't have to go You don't have to muscle them down too much. Okay. Then the next thing is these nuts here. It's got some like slots here, or a square on that. Fits into these tracks here. Then what will happen is this is going to fit on top of that, line up with those nuts. These knobs and the washer, which are the fixing screw B, go into that. You got to kind of watch what size knobs here you use when you take this apart and keep them kind of organized together, because you got this knob here and this knob here. They're similar, but this one is much shorter than this one, and this one's going to need to be up on this part up here. So keep track of that. Such a close fit. Keep both these knobs loose until you got them both started, and you can snug them down a little bit more, but not exactly tight. Keep them a little bit loose yet. Now this will be able to make this so this can slide back and forth, making some adjustments. And this is the bracket frame part here itself. Next is we're going to put the upper fluting bracket on, and the way that goes on is these nuts are going to go underneath this part, just like the other ones did. And this upper fluting bracket top clamp will set on there, and that's where the short screws come in, because they need to be short enough so that these taller ones clear these. Now we're going to take and put this eccentric wheel. The reason they call it eccentric is because it's got like a cam here that's oval shaped and pushes down on things as it's rotated. And that's going to sit on top of here, line up over these holes that are in here. Then underneath that, let's see, put these knobs through. The spring goes on under that. And that's basically the assembly for this part, other than putting the eccentric knob on. And it just screws into that. Now, this assembly and these loose screws here, we're going to fit onto the lower part of this assembly. I'll set this over here. Just going to set on top. Gotta remember to take the springs along with me. And these are going to screw into these holes here. And then you will tighten these down until they tighten enough to hold the board in place. Got an example of a board here. Cam rolls around and presses this part down to hold onto the board. So obviously you've got a ways to go yet here. And try and get it level here. Usually the best way to keep it level is to have boards on both sides. That'll keep you getting level with this plate. Okay, now I can feel the pressure on that, and that holds that board in there. And then I'll show you how to make some of these dovetails with this comb part in front here, and putting the boards in the front and going through with the router and creating dovetails. But pretty much that's it for cleaning and assembly. For something you picked up at a garage sale or wherever, you can clean it up and have yourself a really nice dovetail jig. Well, thank you for watching this video. I would go on and show you how to make these dovetails on this jig, but there are so many excellent videos out there already on YouTube. Now I'll give you a few links in the description below, and these videos will cover setup and tweaking for perfection. You can get some pretty good performance out of this one. Now if you enjoyed this video and you got some inspiration, please give me a like and hit that thumbs up icon. Also, share it with your family, friends, and fellow woodworking enthusiasts. Please subscribe by clicking on that little red icon down in the lower right corner, and be sure to hit the bell icon so you won't miss anything. Now please leave your comments. I'd like to hear what you think, your suggestions, and your questions, and what you may be interested in seeing. Other viewers often leave some great tips and ideas that may answer some of your questions. So thank you for your contributions. Now be sure to read the description below, as it contains a lot of good additional information, updates, and corrections. And check back often for the updates. So as they say on the Red Green Show, if the ladies don't find you handsome, at least they should find you handy. Thank you.